Hi, and welcome to Adventures in Glass with Doug. I'm outside to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you have to do in between building your wonderful glass sculptures and the things that I find myself doing. Some of these sculptures just are not going to stay perfect forever, so they require a little bit of maintenance. So let's talk about some of that. One of my fountains, actually it was one of the first that I built, has really performed well for me. But what will happen in these bowls is that the temperature of that water in the summer will get quite warm, and it's a perfect growing medium for algae. So from time to time you've got to clean out your basin with fresh water and get all of your algae buildup out of there. Now you notice this solar panel on this one has become a little discolored. It still works great, as you can see. Flipping over the unit, some of the other trouble spots you have to watch are the filter here for the pump will sometimes get some of the algae, and I've noticed that sometimes some of the seeds that float around in these bowls will even start to sprout. So you have to make sure you clean out that area from time to time, and you're going to get algae accumulation on the sponge parts and around the side. So you want to make sure that you scrub those before you flip it back in. I'll take that off. Okay, and make sure you submerge it to get the air bubbles out. And if you have good sunlight, you're going to have a good fountain, which is why many times I leave the spray heads off of them, because it'll spray out of your bowl, and pretty soon you're going to have an empty bird bath bowl and fountain. Okay, let's talk about some other things. From time to time, if you have fairy lights inside your sculpture, you're going to find that your solar collector might need a little bit of help. Well, behind these there are mounting screws that when you take those off, you'll be able to get to the spot where there's a rechargeable battery. Now from time to time that battery will just refuse to be recharged, and you may have to replace that. That'll be with a AA rechargeable battery. I have a link for those in the description. You could use a regular AA, but it's not going to recharge from the sun. The other problem you will have from time to time is that this unit will just no longer work. The previous one I had was all clouded over, and I think the batteries weren't recharging. So what I did was I bought a new unit and joined it to the wires for the existing so that I was able to power that up. Now I did a simple connection here, just twisting the wires together and wrapping them in electrical tape. I'm probably going to have to go back, now that I know it works, and either solder the wires or put a wire nut or somehow make that a little bit more permanent. And I have, of course, plenty of extra wire to move this away. I didn't want to have to remove my fairy lights. Let's see if they'll show. They're not going to show right now, but I didn't want to have to replace the fairy lights by pulling the string out. They were fine. I was just having trouble with my power. So that can be done, and as I said, there's a 2-pack that I found that you can purchase online that will do just fine. Another one of the units that I just built, which has some dirt splash on it, but this one has been a cool solar fountain so far. The fountain unit is new and clean, as you can see. Again, I didn't really put the sprayer nozzle on it because it tends to overshoot the bowl and empty this out. This one's in pretty good shape, but it's looking like it's going to need to be cleaned out fairly soon. You can see there's some plant material or leaves and seeds on the bottom, and it looks like the algae is starting to grow again. So I'll just have to empty that out, start over again with that one. But that's happy most of the time. The birds actually love flying in, trying to get a sip of water before flying off. And another one of my first bird baths and solar fountains that I built is this one. A couple of things to say about this. Obviously, you may notice that you've got some orange coloration in the bowl. That's not supposed to be there. That's some algae that started growing in there. So I've got to get that brown algae out. The other thing is this one also had the problem of the solar panel no longer working. So I had replaced the batteries, even the rechargeable batteries, if they're old and haven't been installed, can sometimes lose their ability to recharge. But I'm going to take that unit out and replace it with the smaller ones that I bought, or the same size ones that I bought, as I described. Now this has fairy lights in it. You can actually see inside a lot better than you did originally, because the tinting, the orange and gold tinting that was on here, has washed off and bled off. You can see some of it's still there. Now there's streaking on there, and a lot of that streaking is what I put on with the alcohol inks, and oddly enough that's stayed looking good. You will have to perform maintenance on these over the summer, because you're going to have algae that will grow in those, especially if it's in a reasonably sunny spot. The temperature of that water gets pretty warm, and it's ideal for some of these algae to grow. So we're going to scoop that out, use a washcloth, clean it out, and then refill it with fresh water. Two more of my fountains. This one I'm just leaving the solar element out for now. It works fine as a bird bath for the birds. It has a solar panel that powers fairy lights that are inside it. So far that's doing well, but you can see the bowl of this needs to be cleaned out, rinsed out, and refreshed. Another one that I have, this one's a fairly shallow one, so it works very well for the birds that want to come in and splash around and clean out their feathers. I've seen cardinals and others in the middle of this splashing around. So again, that one needs to be cleaned out, rinsed off, and get ready for the birds again. So as I mentioned, you can take an older solar panel that you've maybe tried replacing the batteries in that, and it still does not power up your unit. Rather than to take all of the fairy lights out, you can give a little bit of lead there, but then cut your wire, and then use that to fasten to a new wire for a new unit. So you would split the wires, match them up, either with a wire nut, small wire nut, or soldering them, or really twisting them together well with electrical tape around it. And then this unit, a new unit, will then connect via a two-prong plug, and you're good to go. Peel off the protective covering. The kit is a 2-pack, and it comes with a stand that you slip your panel into, and a stake that fastens into this to stake it into the ground. And I mentioned rechargeable batteries. I have a link to these rechargeable battery packs that will allow you to replace the battery that's in here for a while. But when your screen really starts to get clouded over, and maybe you get some rust, or somewhere along the line the circuit does not work anymore, you may have to buy yourself some more and replace them. This is as I said, this is a 2-pack. I have it listed in the description. You can click on it, get it online. It took me a little bit of searching to find the right ones, but that'll help you repair existing solar lights that you might have with the fairy lights that might be inside the glass that you can't get to. I know many of you ask, what the heck does Doug do with all these sculptures? Well, I do give some of them away to family members and friends, but on the property we live on now, there are a couple of very large old oak stumps that I haven't yet managed to dig out, and I thought, well, I'll just use them on these stumps, and I put in some butterfly bush near this one to give it some extra color. We've also been busy, Jackie and I, putting together a rock garden on a slope that we have. I put in the steps, some rocks. Jackie was able to put in her little fairy garden. I have one of my fountains up there. But I also made some ledges in here for putting some of the glass pieces that I have. So I can switch out if I want with some of these pieces, and either seasonally or just change it around. That's the one that has a polar bear in it. Jackie did a great job of planting some of this sedum and portulaca, and that's come in really nicely. And in another spot of the same wraparound hillside, I have put in again some of these little ledger spots with some of the stone that we have, and put in some of my sculptures, and also these flowers that I've made out of the plates and whatnot. Really kind of add a spark of color in a shady area that doesn't really have much else in the way of flowering colors. So you can take, you know, a quiet hillside like this that you might have with mulch, and just pop in some of the flowers that you create. All right, let's get back into the studio and we'll start building some. Well, since this channel is where we discuss how to create some great glass sculptures, let's create one. I've shown you a number of different things in terms of the maintenance of your glass sculptures. Well, let's build one. Today we're going to take a couple of these elements that I have. This actually was from a hummingbird feeder, a glass hummingbird feeder. I think that'll work out well. I've used it in some other things that unfortunately broke, so we'll try and use it in this construction. I've got a nice golden plate, and I have a rippled bowl. So what we're going to do is make another one of my glass flowers. But I'm not going to do this by drilling holes through the glass. Now, I've done that, and you can look at some of the other videos where I have, and that's tricky. You can do it if you have the proper bit to be able to cut through the glass, and you've got to be careful to not punch through it once it breaks through and break your glass. But I found that I can use the silicone as the adhesive, and it works just fine rather than trying to bolt through. So we're going to glue those together. And then the last part of that is, all right, so once you have your glass flower, how do you mount it? How do you hang it on something? How do you put it in the ground? And I've gone through a number of different ways of doing that, and not all of them have been very satisfactory. But the latest way that I've figured out to do it is to take some PVC and get either a 45 or a 90-degree bend connector piece, and fasten that on the back. That will allow you to take this and slip it over another short piece of PVC and just connect it, put your stake in the ground, and you should be fine. It can be kind of snug if you're getting, say, 1-inch pipe and a 1-inch connector, which is what it's supposed to be. But sometimes that can get really tight in terms of being able to take it off and put it back on again. So you could get some slightly thinner PVC, you could get some metal rod, copper pipe. Copper's kind of expensive, but you could even get a wooden stake, I suppose, if it was a large dowel that would work. Okay, so what we'll do once we have this constructed is we'll put this on the back, and that'll be our method of mounting. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know that my recommendation for the adhesive is 100% silicone. It's clear, it's the GE version. If you need to find some, I have a link online in the description, along with a lot of other things that you might consider purchasing. So we're going to use this silicone. You could use epoxy if that's what you choose. I find this is just a lot easier to work with, and I'm very familiar with it, and it allows me to reposition things later on if something breaks or replace pieces. Okay, so we're going to take that And we're going to run a bead of caulk of the silicone around the base of this, the part of that will connect to the plate. Next step is, this is going to go in the center. And again, we put our bead of caulk. And with those three pieces, we have what will be our flower. They're connected. My last step, after this dries, I'll flip it over and I'll put this connector piece on the back. That'll be the part that will allow me to put it on a stake and put it in the ground. So I will, when this all dries, I'll show you a finished picture of it, and that'll be our construction for today. Pretty simple one. I hope you enjoy the channel. If you do enjoy what you see, please give me a thumbs up. Give me a comment or two to tell me whether it's working for you. Be sure to look at some of the other videos I have. There are plenty of them. And subscribe if you want to be notified the next time I have a new video. So, thanks for visiting. We'll see you next time.